The COVID-19 virus has impacted everyone worldwide in a tremendous number of ways. In March of 2020, everyone had to adapt to a new way of living, a new way of learning, basically a new way to do almost everything. For many states, masks became a required piece of attire, and that played a necessary part in slowing the spread of the virus. And for a time, only essential businesses were open, such as grocery stores, hospitals, clinics, pharmacies, and any special stores like that. Several jobs were forced to close its doors, and unemployment hit a record high. It was a rough period when the 2021 school year started back up with the options of in-school learning and distance learning, and also they had hybrid. Most students, to include the teachers, were unaware of the virtual platform and how it would be carried out, but some elected to partake in it anyway. The option to return back to the classroom was selected by most because it was the norm and everyone wanted to achieve the sense of normalcy that the corona had just stolen away from them. In-person learning was constantly interrupted, though, by the health concerns that the students and the teachers had due to the spread of the coronavirus, and the schools just couldn't control the rate. Constant school closures were reported all around the world, and it really affected some children unequally because not all children had the opportunities, some of the tools, the access to the resources that they need to keep on learning during the pandemic. The teachers' level of stress heightened as a result of the pandemic. The burnout rates have been high through these unusual pandemic times, raising concerns about a potential increase in teacher turnover and future teacher shortages. Schools across the country have implemented many learning plans to follow, but it's all the teacher's responsibility to carry them out all on their own. And it had a negative impact on the teacher performance because they weren't given the right training and that they need to be able to teach online. Many teachers' mental health began to suffer, and it was really bad on them. Teaching students is a hard job, not only because of the curriculum, the age of the students, and how it affected the methods, but it's a field that requires an immeasurable amount of time, and some people would think that it's an unappreciated endeavor. With the onset of COVID-19, this just magnified this already daunting task. The job of a teacher was stressful even before the pandemic, but now it has become more of a struggle to incite learning on the individual students, and teachers are expected to work longer hours, prepare more lesson plans than usual and materials, and to figure out how to best disseminate all that information to entice the students to want to learn, all while doing this from home. The task just became overwhelming, and most teachers became seriously burned out, and they threatened to quit their profession after the school year ended because they just couldn't cope mentally with their heightened stress levels. There was a report furnished by ASCA, and they had this thing called the psychological triage, and they were talking about how they want it to be administered not only to students but to teachers as well, to address the trauma that has been caused by intense stress and that was associated with the pandemic. As if the pandemic didn't send our educational system into an uproar already, there's another troubling consequence that the COVID-19 had to offer. More work, less pay. It was reported that the teachers' pay was substantially low and that teachers were paid 19.2% less in weekly wages compared to college-educated workers. There were efforts made in attempts to increase the teachers' wages in order to bring their salary up, but with COVID now, it paused. They paused it, and the legislators still have to come back to go back over that. With salaries remaining stagnant, most teachers were forced to obtain second jobs in order to make their ends meet. The obligation of teachers more than doubled while their income continues to remain at a consistent low. In conclusion, the impact of COVID-19 school was significant. Its lingering residue may have left some students to fall behind in their education, but our educators who are charged with teaching our children are greatly affected in a negative way as well. The environment poses a challenge for teachers to attempt to teach through masks, gloves, dividers in the classroom, while their own mental health and pay are deteriorating at record speeds. These are the concerns that are prevalent to the teacher, but the legislators continue to put them on the back burner. Although trying to grasp any form of normalcy, we are still harshly affected by the health crisis of this current pandemic, which means that prioritizing education and recovery is crucial to avoid a generational catastrophe of uneducated children. The children are our future, but what future will our children have without our educators?